Why is Energy Minister David Mahlobo fast-tracking the finalization of the integrated resource plan? What can be made of President Jacob Zuma's criticism of those opposed to the nuclear energy proposal? Who stands to benefit from the procurement of the controversial nuclear deal? And why is Greenpeace promoting a move away from fossil fuels to renewable energy? What time is it? It's question time. Khotsong, Gurula, Mraro, and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The nuclear deal that is expected to cost South Africa 1 trillion rand is back under the spotlight. This after a popular Sunday newspaper reported that Energy Minister David Mahlobo and his officials are forging ahead with finalizing the country's reviewed integrated energy resource plan. While the plan is to finalize the country's energy mix is expected to be concluded by February 2018, the report says the plan will be finalized in the next 2 weeks. Russia is tipped to clinch the lucrative deal. Earlier this year, the Western Cape High Court ruled that the nuclear program was unconstitutional and unlawful, and it had to be debated in Parliament. Recently, Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba said the nuclear bill program is neither affordable nor currently necessary. Meanwhile, President Jacob Zuma has criticized Western countries for prevailing on the Apartheid regime's dismantling of its nuclear weapons and programs before the ANC could take over power. For its part, Greenpeace Africa says facts remain that the country does not need nor can it afford nuclear energy. We invited both Eskom and the Department of Energy, but neither of them responded. We are live, therefore you can call us and air your views. The number to dial is 089-1104-210. If you're outside the borders, plus 2789-1104-210, or tweet us your comments at question time 24. My guest, Penny Jane Cook. She's the climate and energy campaigner at Greenpeace. Now she joins me in studio. Well, welcome to the show. Let's firstly check from your side, why is Energy Minister getting this deal done? Well, those are the reports that he wants to get this thing done in about 2 weeks.
That is a very key and interesting question, especially seen as we were looking at a 3-month time frame, and now it's suddenly being rushed forward. What Greenpeace would say is what the South African public carefully needs to consider is the vested interests and corruption that are around the nuclear deal, and how that's linked to the integrated resource plan, which is the plan that our energy minister is currently rushing. And what's key, I think, is the ANC conference that's coming up in December, and the fact that the nuclear deal is being pushed through before that actually happens. So both the integrated resource plan and the procurement needs to happen so that the vested interests involved in nuclear can move forward with actually procuring nuclear energy.
But the High Court in Cape Town said, wow, this is not procedural. Then the Minister of Finance says, look, we don't need this thing. We can't afford it.
Absolutely. And I think that really echoes Greenpeace Africa's sentiments. We have concerns around cost. We have concerns around the time it takes to build energy. And we have concerns around the safety. And it's not just Greenpeace. I think the cost of nuclear is something that all sectors of society, various government bodies, the Treasury, have all been united in saying South Africa can't afford nuclear energy. We don't need it. We're talking about a suppressed economy when the demand for energy has decreased. Why is our president so determined to push forward with nuclear energy?
Well, the question I would then ask is, who stands to benefit from this deal?
I think that is a very good question.
I need a good answer from you.
Well, we have Greenpeace's perspective, and bearing in mind that we are an environmental non-profit organization, so politics is not our game. But what we have seen from our president's many visits to Russia, the fact that the new energy minister has close ties to those visits, the fact that there is a very close relationship with the Russian government, bearing in mind the kind of scandals that the Russian energy, Rosatom, that's the nuclear supplier from Russia, the kind of scandals and corruption that they've been involved in, The president sits on the board of Rosatom, the Russian president. So there are all sorts of corruption, lack of transparency scandals that are associated with Russia too. And our president and our energy ministers, close ties to Russia, all of it adds up to not looking good for South Africa.
But how credible are these reports that there's this underhandedness in this deal?
The credibility of the reports is something we could debate for ages, but what we're saying is if there's nothing to hide, why are they not just coming out and telling us what's happening? Why did it have to get to Earthlife and SABC taking the government to court over the procurement process? Why do we have to demand documents that should be in the public sphere? Okay. Why are these plans suddenly being rushed through? None of it adds up to a process that is not transparent and without corruption.
Let's go to Limpopo. Lerato, welcome. Oh, is it Lerasa? Aya, taya Lerasa mulloka dinamune. Awa go hot Lerasa man. He's talking to you now.
Sorry, I can't actually hear the caller.
Okay.
Well,
we'll get the fallback. Yeah, go ahead, Lerasa.
Yeah. Let me go straight to the point.
Yes.
When Minister Malusi was the head of state security agency, he went to Russia.
Yeah.
He was given a white envelope containing $1 billion of rands, so that the money can be distributed into ministers, the one given to our current President Zuma. So that the reason why they are seeking this nuclear deal is because they've been given a lot of money. I'm telling you, when we wake up before December time, the nuclear deal will be signed.
Whoa. Okay.
You get my point?
I get your point, Rasamul. But you don't think we need this nuclear power?
No. How are we going to benefit from nuclear deal?
Well, yeah. Well, it's a good question.
No. South Africa is going to suffer well. We don't need the nuclear deal. Our finance minister did mention that we don't need it, but Mr. Malusi said we need it. So the contradiction between two ANC ministers.
Rasamul, I get your point. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gigaba never received anything. They never given me a piece of white envelope.
Also, you think he's rejecting it because he didn't get the envelope?
No, he never received an envelope.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thanks a lot, Del Hasamulo, calling us from Zwidiela, is one of our loyal viewers there, Hasamulo. Well, those are his views.
Perhaps as a follow-up to what he was saying around the energy that we do or do not need in South Africa, I think what we need to bear in mind is the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, which let's just remember that that's a government scientific studying body, so it's commissioned by the government to do research. Yeah. They came out with a report saying that renewable energy is the cheapest and the most technologically appropriate choice for South Africa, and in their report it was clear that nuclear was a no. So if even someone like a government institution, a government research institution is coming out and saying we don't need nuclear, renewable energy is the way to go, this is all clear indications of how South Africa should be investing their money. Renewable energy is affordable, it delivers on time, it's without corruption, it's a transparent process, and yet it's being ignored by our government and it's not being pushed forward. And nuclear is what's taking over the rhetoric.
What would you rather have?
Renewable energy. The strong preference for Greenpeace is renewable energy, and that's not just based on because we like the idea of a renewable energy source. The integrated resource plan, what it's actually supposed to be, is a non-biased way of determining the energy mix for the country. So basically you put all the different technologies in and the model tells you what you should be building. And if it was a rational model that isn't being interfered with, as it currently is, renewable energy would be the winner. If this was a race, renewable energy would be the clear winner. And the only thing we can say is something is blocking renewable energy from happening in South Africa because it's the right answer for South Africa.
Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll take those calls, 089-110-4210. What do you think of this nuclear deal? Please do give us a call there and we'll be able to take your views, or rather send us a tweet at QuestionTime24. We shall return.
Ifigile! The new 1 liter from Carling Black Label. Share the ultimate reward.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guest today is Penny Jane Cook. She's the climate and energy campaigner at Greenpeace. And on the line from Rustenburg, we've got Dateson. Datesono? We seem to have lost Datesono there in Rustenburg. Please do call us back in Datesono in Rustenburg. I know you've got some interesting views there. But one of the clouds or the black dots on this nuclear deal is obviously the people who stand to benefit. Do we know in South Africa as to who is in line to pocket, how much?
No, we do not have those figures. I think what is important to remember is the price tag that's attached to the nuclear deal for South Africans.
It's just too much money. We don't even have that figure in Chivenda or in Zulu or Sutu. Too much money.
And I think what's clear for us is we put forward as civil society put forward the 1 trillion rand price tag based on our calculations. And as much as the government has come out and said that's crazy, they haven't come out with evidence to dispute that.
Yeah.
So that's the price tag that we know from international studies, from what we've seen overseas. And what's also important to remember is that's the figure if it gets built on time and in budget. But over decades of nuclear being built in other parts of the world, it's never been on time and it's never been on budget. So we're going to wait a decade for this nuclear energy. It's going to be reflected in our tariff. So you and I are going to be paying that in our electricity bill. It's going to take 10 years to build, at best case scenario, at a price we can't afford. So one day we'll supposedly have nuclear energy, but then we won't be able to afford electricity. So what is the benefit for the South African population? Taking corruption aside, taking who's going to benefit aside, all South Africans need to mobilize behind this issue because it's something that's going to impact all of us in our everyday lives.
Let's go to Centurion. Pat, welcome.
How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
Oh, yes, man. One of the things that I know for sure is that the whole thing is a setup for South Africa to actually feel the hinge. We are not looking at South Africa for now, but in 20 years when we allow this nuclear deal, everything, we talk of organic plantation, the whole culture will be destroyed. Our environment, at the very same level that we are in now, it will be contaminated. And what we say is that the whole corruption that is taking place in government, one of the things that they were supposed to consider was that when they conduct the environmental impact assessment and the act to be passed in Parliament, it was first process is public participation.
Yes.
It has never taken place.
Yeah.
Meaning it's more than a proof that there are people who are getting lump sum of money at the expense of our lives being put. Look at other countries which have implemented a nuclear deal and nuclear energy. Look at how those countries over the years, over the period of years, how they are suffering. Some they want to buying out in the very same thing. But because we have the so-called government that is led by people who are only interested on their pockets, it makes us very bad country because number one, once we allow it in South Africa and we say these nuclear energies, these plants, they must be operational, we are actually inviting a big problem in Africa because once it is tested in South Africa, all these other countries of which we are not going to enjoy anymore, the environment, the clean environment we are breathing, you look, coal itself, coal mining itself,
okay,
it has a lot of negative impact to what our environment, our health. You look at areas like Emalahleni. I'm from Emalahleni original. Most people there, because they use coal. You go and look at how many people who are suffering from eye problems, tuberculosis, and all those things.
Yes.
But with this nuclear deal, we are going to feel for it if we are not careful as South Africans. One thing for sure, the now leadership in government, they will pass it one way or the other to use the majority they have in parliament to suppress the truth.
Okay.
Then I like what the lady was elaborating there, that we can see it as something that it is not going to impact South Africa. But the agriculture, all the sectors will be affected just because of the environmental impact assessment was not conducted in a way that all of us, we are participants and we have a buy-in in this so-called deal, which the current leadership, they are making it sure that everything it is swept under carpet.
Okay. Patrick, thank you very much. I think you've made your point there. Wow. A couple of people not so excited about this.
I mean, I'm glad Patrick brought up the issue of environmental issues. I think for us, in terms of the safety, that is a key concern. And as much as, so nuclear disasters are often viewed as, well, that was a catastrophe, but we'll just put it to one side and carry on, because in people's minds, they don't happen often enough for it to be a big concern. But in the past 2 decades, we've had a nuclear disaster. Both Chernobyl and Fukushima show us what the realities of this technology is. And what we're looking at with nuclear is a really advanced technology combined with always the risk of human error. And those things combined just make it a completely unreasonable thing to be choosing for a country.
But you guys are not fair. There are positives to nuclear.
I'm listening.
Yeah, but why don't you talk about it?
What are the positives?
The medical aspect of it.
I think when we talk about nuclear, we also need to talk about specifics.
Yeah.
So the medical elements around nuclear is one thing, but combining that's also something that pro-nuclear is always like, but what about the medical benefits? But that completely derails the debate. What you want to talk about is nuclear energy in and of itself, and whether that is what is required for South Africa. In the press now, our president talking about nuclear armory and the fact that the West is telling us that we can't have nuclear arms. All of this just creates an inflammatory debate where we're not actually having a technologically sound debate talking about the issues at hand, and that's what the focus needs to be.
Hold it there. I want us to talk a bit about that. Let's take Tebogo. Tebogo, you are in Pretoria. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Tebogo.
I'm fine. Okay, I also have my point to make. This thing of nuclear deal, according to me, there is more to it than one can meet. Because if you can see, it was said that it's going to be concluded next year, February.
Yes.
And according to those who know about it, they say it is not necessary for us South Africans. They say the good thing is renewable energy.
Yes.
So what surprises me the most is that why the rush now?
Yeah.
That's what make, because according to Sundays they say this week, next week on the 14th, it's gonna be everything. So that's why I'm having the problem. It seems as if there are companies lying so that they can benefit from this nuclear deal. It's no longer about we South Africans needing this nuclear deal. It's about the corruption that will benefit the family, that will maybe benefit the Guptas or whatever, but there is more to it than meet the eye. So I'm appealing to opposition parties, all the organizations that are against corruption, maybe let them do something so that we can stop this road, because we don't want our children to suffer in the near future. Let them stop this road. This thing of nuclear deal is not fine because it is rushed, and everything that is done by our government, most of the thing, it smells of corruption. So we are no longer trusting anything that they are talking about is good for the country, is good for what. This renewable, let it be stopped if it is possible, so that we can continue without worrying. It seems as if they are targeting. Now we are going to December conference. It seems as if things must be done before that conference, because. So that's my opinion, according to me.
Your call has been placed on hold.
Okay, thanks very much, Tebogo. Puts us on hold there. Well, let's check our Twitter there. Zimbabwe breaking news. The vice president has been relief of his duties. Comrade Mnangagwa, I don't know what else, but that got to do with us for now. Mpora Makatsa, oh my lord, nuclear deal is in the interest of Zuma's corrupt syndicate. My ANC have allowed him to institutionalize corruption. Well, that's Mpora Makatsa there. Chincha says, Guptas, Kulubuse, Zuma, Russians, and the French business people at the expense of the people of South Africa. Unati says, well, we all know the corrupt family and friends that will benefit from this nuclear deal. Hashtag nuclear power, nuclear SABC News. That is, and perhaps the last one, Olani Wegazi says, well, it's going to be Jacob Zuma and his friends, Guptas. Whoa, nuclear deal. Wow. Yeah, that's, those are the views of our viewers there. Chiano Maruping says, corrupt network of Zuma's friends are going to benefit. Well, it seems everybody is just pointing fingers at the president. So, I don't know. Well, let me just read the last one. Gaddafi Pape, we can scream to our lungs, we will never change the ANC. Well, yeah, that's those are the views of our people.
Something else to consider in terms of the nuclear industry, it's on the decline internationally.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing with the likes of Rosatom from Russia and other nuclear agencies is they've now turned their view to Africa. And they're now trying to peddle nuclear technology in Africa. And it's the time now to decide what the future is that we want for Africa and for South Africa. Okay. Do we want energy we can't afford? Do we want the debt to be sitting with South Africans for decades to come? Or do we want to choose a different path for South Africa?
Now, it is said in 2 weeks' time it's going to happen. So how do you stop it?
So we are looking at multiple avenues.
Okay.
One of the things in terms of, so I assume all the viewers know that Danafontein, which is next to Koeberg, so they're looking to build this new nuclear reactor right next door to Koeberg. So doubling the risk that is currently faced by Cape Town. So we have the process that happens with an environmental impact assessment is that you can appeal the decision given by the minister. So in partnership with EarthLife Africa and with SABC, Greenpeace Africa has put in the notification that we plan to appeal. We have until the end of November to actually appeal the process, and then we will take it forward. So we're currently getting legal advice from our legal counsellors as to what the next steps could be. We fully anticipate that the Minister of Energy will say, we see your appeal, but we're sticking with our decision, and we would then need to take the process forward and actually see how we can stop this from going ahead.
Are you likely to win?
We think so, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it.
Is the law on your side?
The law is on our side.
So why is the minister doing something which is illegal?
It's not illegal in that respect. So our environmental department, it is their duty to protect the environment of South Africa for current and future generations. And that's something that's enshrined in our constitution. But unfortunately, our Minister for the Environment, as with so many government departments, seems to have been co-opted into this whole pushing the nuclear deal ahead. So what we're now saying is Greenpeace is you've acted irresponsibly. You can't have made this decision. It's not rational for South Africa. The number of environmental impacts are huge, and you therefore need to change your mind about your decision.
Okay, thank you very much for making time to talk to us about the nuclear deal. Well, that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Have a thought.